If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos?
Cowboys and Aliens is a wannabe sci-fi western blockbuster from 2011 where Daniel Craig wakes up in the desert thinking that he's Jason Bourne without a name or memory. After which he quickly runs into trouble in a nearby town with some cowboys, as well as, of course, as the title suggests, aliens attack to snatch a bunch of people up like cattle, and then Daniel Craig joins forces with a local tycoon, Harrison Ford, to go save them. And essentially, Cowboys and Aliens as a movie functions much like its main hero. All of us most likely at some point have heard of it, yet none of us really remember it. Which is pretty strange, considering that it's one of the biggest Hollywood movies to date. Not only due to its massive budget and massive leading actors, but also because of the giants behind the screen. We have seemingly endless writing credits with some of the most Hollywoodest of Hollywood screenwriters. We have a super hot director coming in after launching the modern superhero craze. We have titans of industry producing, including Steven Spielberg as well as Ron Howard.
Damn, that's a big.
With all those names and more mentioned, what could possibly go wrong? Well,
we still need more money.
Yeah, Cowboys and Aliens is a classic Hollywood blockbuster tale in that it's this big movie that was meant to soar into the sky, only to crash and burn because most people didn't like it or go see it. And I'm sure there are plenty of reasons why, like the cold hard fact that the movie just feels meh. There are some interesting and entertaining elements present, like whining, crying Paul Dano constantly getting his ass kicked. But as a whole, it's a pretty generically boring experience. But of course, since blanket arguments like generic and boring aren't really tangible or helpful to the rest of us, I thought today we could look at Cowboys and Aliens in a deeper sense. Because what I'd argue to be the main problem deep in its core that turned it into this forgettable flop is that it crumbles under its own weight. There are so many big people and visions behind it, such massive character actors in it, such an extensive variety of conceptual elements in play within it, that ultimately there's nothing because it all cancels each other out like magnets of the same kind.
Magnets! Oh!
In other words, the movie lacks specificity, which in filmmaking is pretty much instant doom. So yeah, let's take a closer look at what that means. Why Cowboys and Aliens became yet another generic Hollywood flop that gets talked about only when some random YouTuber years later brings it up. Here's why specificity is a necessity. The first key reason this movie feels so generically meh is that the specialty of its conceptual elements mostly is not used to create special scenes. As a great example, look at the opening, where Daniel Craig awakes in the desert without memory, with a wound in his stomach and a strange bracelet stuck on his wrist. Before he can even get on his feet, some local O'Driscoll boys happen to ride by, figuring that this dude could be a fugitive worth bounty money.
Got iron on his wrist. He's been shot.
Could be done broke out of the hooscow.
The setup of the scene works just fine, but when it comes to the actual play-by-play, well... Yeah, Daniel Craig just kinda takes these guys out and then rides out with their gear. There's nothing wrong with that, but the issue is that it's a usual standoff scene you've seen in 100 other westerns done by filmmakers way more talented. There's just nothing special here, nothing to make it stand out, because its specialty is not used. Whereas if, for example, you also use the mysterious alien bracelet, if Daniel Craig accidentally activated it to blast the last couple O'Driscoll boys away,
What in tarnation?
you'd have a fresh angle for this scene. It would make the scene look and feel different than the versions of it you've seen in a Sergio Leone movie, due to the fact that Sergio Leone didn't have an alien bracelet to use. Or if not that yet, at least something smaller. Because, I mean, the movie is called Cowboys and Aliens. There's not really any mystery as to the origin of this thing. And for most of the runtime, the movie keeps falling into this same trap. Daniel Craig rides into town and stumbles into a preacher who fixes his wound, which could happen exactly like so in any other Western. He goes outside to see some rascals causing havoc and gets involved because he's a quiet badass.
Maybe you don't know who I am.
Which could happen exactly like so in any other Western. He gets his keys crossed with a local power because of his badass nature, and also gets in trouble with the law because of his shady outlaw past, which could happen exactly like so in any other Western, and has indeed happened. It gets to the point where we enter the end of the first act still without any proper standout specialty. So far, we've only had one quick disconnected scene with bright lights,
Let's head to space if you're there.
as well as some scary visions. That's it. Mostly what you see, you could have and have seen anywhere, which begs the question of, what's the point? Why would I watch an average imitation of Sergio Leone when I could be watching Sergio Leone? Now, to be fair, the concept is used more from here on out. At the end of Act 1, the aliens attack the town, and we get this cool scene of breaking out of jail while alien ships blast by, lassoing people with them. This is a familiar Western scene done in a very different way that you can only see here. Great. And there's even more. There's a casino vessel upside down in a desert, which is a very unique location that I actually remembered. There's the hero's love interest being burned on a pyre and then walking out naked, which is quite out of the ordinary. And at the end, we have Westerners and natives joining forces to fight alien invaders. That's a Western movie scene that you can find only in this particular Western movie. That's something worth remembering and paying for. But as a whole, these conceptual elements just aren't used enough. The alien bracelet seems to activate only at times when the plot absolutely demands it. The love interest is another kind of alien, but outside of that one nude scene and some exposition, she may as well not be. It makes no difference. The aliens are after gold, which ties them neatly to a central Western topic, but without much effect because gold isn't relevant in any real detailed way. There's nothing special gold is needed for here. People get gold at the end and then all they do with it is buy drinks, which is the same way gold is always used in these movies.
Well, this gold's gonna make things different. We're gonna have a railroad in here soon.
As in, the conceptual specialty is there, but not utilized enough to be special. I guess what I'm getting at is to think of your conceptual elements as an alien gun. When it comes to building a scene in a Western movie, you can never survive against Sergio Leone, not in a fair fight. But if you draw your alien gun that Sergio Leone doesn't have, at least now you got a chance. Concept is of use only when used. An alien bracelet is only a bracelet until utilized as an alien bracelet. Or just to make this less convoluted, let's forget the alien part. Let's say that for your summer holiday, your grandma gives you a brand new bracelet, a special bracelet, because it can make you smarter, it can teach you a language, like Spanish. You know, you turn it on and then you can do these fun 15-minute interactive Spanish lessons every day, which allows you to have a conversation in Spanish in just 3 weeks. Great. Well, that specialty is there only if you actually turn the bracelet on to use it. If you don't, all you have is a brick on your wrist and an unpleased grandma. That's your conceptual element and the audience, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, and the bracelet's special software is real, by the way, and it's called Babbel. It's this super efficient and easy to use language app that fits your daily life and teaches you through a variety of non-boring hands-on methods, quizzes, games, podcasts, even live classes, designed by real language teachers to get you talking in 3 weeks, in just 15 minutes per day.
You say Espanol.
Muy bien.
If you want to learn a language for work, o para viajar, o simplemente para convertirte en una persona más inteligente, esta es la mejor manera. Babbel is sponsoring a 60% Filmento discount with the link below or the QR code on screen, so do check it out. Thanks. The second key reason this movie feels so forgettably bleh is that characters lack specificity to create scenes with, which reduces most scenes to follow basic prompts. If you look at the opening again, what you'll notice is that nothing is known about the hero that could propel the story forward. He's wounded and he has the bracelet and a photo of some woman, but there's nothing about him to move things, not even a trail to follow like with Bourne. As in, we have a wounded guy in a desert, so what do you think's gonna happen next? That's right, he goes to fix his wound. And the issue with this is that it's a story point that 99% of other writers in this situation will write. Oh, the hero is wounded. Well, of course, the next logical thing is to go fix it, which is not exactly good storytelling because now you're telling a story that pretty much every other similar movie is telling. You get lost in the noise.
On your keypads, please, audience. Well, it's entirely your choice.
And a lot of the movie is like this. Most of what happens is a basic Western prompt. We go to town and there's trouble in town that pulls us in because we're a quiet badass. We get in trouble with the law in town because we have this backstory of being a badass outlaw.
What in tarnation?
We get mixed up with powerful locals because we just happen to mess with the wrong person. It's all either circumstantial or born from the most obvious backstory known to every writer. And it keeps repeating. When we set out to find the townspeople captured by the aliens, we soon get ambushed by Daniel Craig's old gang, who have turned against him because he's actually a pretty good guy that left the gang.
You telling us you was leaving us high and dry because of some woman?
We need that money!
When the gang stuff is over with, we soon get ambushed by natives who take us to their camp as prisoners, but then become friendly because turns out they're not so bad. I mean, even the whole emotional basis for us to find the aliens is that Daniel Craig sees visions of his supposed ex-girlfriend, so of course we need to go save her. There's nothing necessarily wrong with any of that, but it's not really standing out either. It's all stuff you've seen 1,000 times before, because it is the most obvious way to tell this story. And as for the reason why that's so, I'd say it's because there aren't any specific enough qualities about these characters to write from in terms of goals and motivations and personality and whatever. The hero is literally a passive shell with no objective to actively chase, so the only way to write the movie is to use basic prompts to make stuff happen to him. The hero has no emotional investment in a journey, so the only way to give him investment is to show quick visions of a hot woman he apparently loved. And of course, he needs emotion in the present too, so let's add this other hot woman to get intimate with him, even though that goes fully against the emotional basis with the first woman.
The woman. Did you love her?
I did, man. I can't remember.
I must have. All I know is I owe it to her.
What I'm getting at is that specificity of narrative comes from specificity of character, like Blue Bloom breaking into a house after a robbery to get footage he can sell to the news, and moving dead bodies at an accident site before police arrive to get a better shot. These are scenes you can see only in this movie.
These men are wanted for the triple murder in Granada Hills last night.
Because it's the specific nature of this character that creates them. course, if you don't do that, then you get stuff like with Harrison Ford here. His gist is that he's this powerful cattle tycoon with an army of henchmen that rivals even the law, which is an interesting basis that you can do a lot with. I mean, they made a whole show about it. And yet, it's not really relevant here. He goes on a journey with no involvement of the law, with just a handful of henchmen who get killed off almost immediately.
Oh,
So then, what is this character? What's the point of having this powerful cattle tycoon if he's not being that in the story? What can you do with him? Nothing. He's just kind of this grumpy old guy there for the ride. He's Harrison Ford being Harrison Ford. And even though Harrison Ford is great, I can see him be Harrison Ford elsewhere. I don't need this movie for that.
He says if you're such a great warrior, why do you only have a man and a boy to follow you into battle?
Specialty of story comes from specialty of character. So identify what is special about your character and write the story specifically from that. Because if your preacher character, for example, functions like a doctor, it will always take value away from the doctor character. A powerful tycoon who isn't a powerful tycoon in the story is easily reduced to nothing. Thirdly, the reason this movie feels like such a mediocre geh is that the most inherent special element in it, the aliens, is so unspecific in its specialty that there is no specialty. To give you a sense of what I mean, look at what the aliens are. Initially, we see them fly these agile ships in the night to lasso people with them as they disappear in a blink. And when one ship crashes, it has this tiny cockpit from which the pilot has snuck away. Meaning that it's like they're this physically inferior race of intellect-based beings who hide in the shadows and strike suddenly with technology. Except it turns out that that's not what they are at all. Right, turns out the aliens are actually these hulking monsters that run at you in the battlefield mindlessly to bite your head off. Which is pretty weird because it contradicts everything from before. Why do they need these raiding ships if they're so physically gifted? It's hard to even picture them flying one of these. How come they can sneak in the shadows if they're these massive beasts? I'm pretty sure you'd hear them coming a mile away.
what in tarnations?
And what's the point of them using futuristic weapons tech if they can just run up to you and slay you? To be clear, contrast and irony can be effective. A big guy who hides, that can be very cool. But what I mean here is that the aliens are so special in so many rivaling areas that all that specialty negates each other. Sometimes the aliens are shown to have this weakness inside their body when they open their chest to reveal these creepy hands. That's probably something Steven Spielberg brought in, and it's pretty cool. It's how the kid kills one of them. Great. But it only exists in a couple scenes. Any other time, the chest weakness isn't relevant in any way, and the aliens are getting killed when someone shoots them in the face. And if that's so, what's the point of the weakness? Can you even call it a weakness? I mean, just shoot them.
I guess we found out his weakness. Bullets.
Same on the behavior side. The aliens are built up to be highly intelligent with their realistic Ron Howard technology and all, but at the end they're reduced to being these brainless animals that charge into battle with no kind of plan. Which makes it tough to see them as intelligent anymore. They show no sentience, they don't care for their fallen or protect their comrades or reveal any kind of self-aware emotion like hesitation or fear. They're just these big CGI monstrosities whose nature seems to shift and change based on the situation. For context, the aliens in A Quiet Place are great because they're very specific. They're blind animalistic monsters who hunt with sound. Great. Whereas here, the movie just kind of says that, yeah, the aliens don't see so well in the light.
They don't see well in daylight.
But then they see just fine. Like, what are you waffling about? The fact that they're everything means they're nothing. It's difficult to take seriously the fact that one alien holds a grudge against Daniel Craig at the end, when outside of that one scene, they're these dumb bulls who seem to have no idea what's even going on. In fact, it's as if the aliens are whatever the narrative in different moments needs them to be. They round up people like cattle and bring them to their mothership, but we never really delve into why. Cattle implies food, but it's not for food. They're turning bodies to dust. You could say they're kidnapping people to study them, but still to no end. What are they studying? Why do they need so many people to study that it exposes their presence? And why are they blowing everything up? Why are they destroying random herds of cattle? I don't know. I guess that's just what the plot requires.
I'm blowing up other people's cows.
But there's white lights. There's bright lights.
Machines went with our kin.
We'll set off first light.
Even the fact that the aliens want gold, at face value, I think it's great. It connects them to the heart of the Wild West. It allows for a very poetic ending where the bad guy gets dunked in hot gold.
You want to be a genie? You've got everything that goes with it.
But the issue, again, is that we never delve into what they need gold for. It's not water, it's not vital for survival, it's more of a vanity, and I don't see the aliens as vain. I can't picture them wearing a Rolex. I'm just not given enough to invest in or even fully understand why the aliens would assign value to gold specifically the way humans inherently do. Because again, they don't seem human since there are all these other things as well.
They want gold. It's as rare to them as it is to you.
Well, that's just ridiculous. What are they gonna do? Buy something?
As a whole, what I'm getting at is that specialty is of use only when used wisely and consistently. A diamond is valuable, yes, but mostly so when you find it in a field of sand. Whereas a diamond that you find in a field of diamonds, that has no individual value at all. That's just something that gets lost in the abundance. That, in essence, is what happened to Cowboys and Aliens.